Hello everyone, welcome to Diplomatic Briefs. During the Biden era, the United States has been forming alliances everywhere to contain China, and among these, strengthening the US-Japan-India-Australia quadrilateral security dialogue is the most obvious move. Trying to stir things up in Asia, the US has roped in three major Asia-Pacific economic powers to encircle China. However, over the past 2 years, after Australia and Japan got new leaders, this group has become much less aggressive. When Trump came to power and wielded the tariff stick, even at last month's foreign ministers' meeting of the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, foreign media described the press conference as everyone talking past each other. Recently, politicians from Japan, Australia, and India have been lining up to visit China one after another, and Chinese leaders have also made visits in return. The original significance of this group has been greatly diminished. We can also see that, on one hand, the United States is moving toward isolationism and its allies are drifting apart. On the other hand, we can observe China's grand diplomatic strategy, calmly responding to challenges to ensure that China's march toward becoming a strong nation does not stall. As we enter July, there has been a notable increase in the number of foreign guests visiting China. India's Foreign Minister Subrahmanyam Jaishankar, who in the past was not particularly friendly toward China, is currently visiting. On July 14th, Vice President Han Zhang met with him. Han Zhang stated China and India are major developing countries and important members of the Global South. He said being partners who help each other succeed and achieving mutual prosperity is the right choice for both sides. Both sides should implement important consensus reached by leaders, maintain high-level guidance, steadily advance practical cooperation, respect each other's concerns, and promote sustained, healthy, stable development of China-India relations. In response, Jaishankar said that India is willing to follow the guidance of the consensus reached by the leaders, maintain the momentum of India-China relations, promote mutually beneficial cooperation, and strengthen communication and coordination within multilateral mechanisms. India supports China, as the rotating chair, in successfully hosting this year's Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit. Vice Premier He Lifeng also visited Japan and met with Toshimitsu Motegi, Secretary General of the ruling Liberal Democratic Party. The Japanese side announced that it will move forward with resuming beef exports to China, and the relevant agreement has already come into effect. He Lifeng also stated that China welcomes the import of high-quality Japanese seafood that meets Chinese standards. On the same day, China announced the approval of 3 Japanese companies to export seafood to China. As for Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba's visit to China, the timing is still undecided, mainly because the U.S. tariff negotiations have left things in a mess. However, judging from Ishiba's relatively tough stance in the negotiations, Japan and China now have more common ground to talk about. As for shifting positions, the most obvious example is Australia. From July 12th to 18th, Prime Minister Albanese embarked on an extended 7-day visit to China. This is his second visit to China since taking office as Prime Minister, and also his first overseas trip since taking office this year. He visited 3 cities, Beijing, Shanghai, and Chengdu. On the morning of July 13th, Shanghai city officials met with Australian Prime Minister Albanese. Interestingly, Muscat, the head coach of the Shanghai Port team, along with the Australian coaching staff and team captain Wang Xinqiu, a group of 6, accompanied Prime Minister Albanese for a morning workout and walk along the Bund, and presented him with a personalized championship jersey. Australian star Muscat coaching in Shanghai and achieving great successes, in itself, a model of sports and cultural exchange between the two countries. During his playing days, Muscat was a famous Australian football star. In addition to serving as captain of the Australian national team, he also played for long-standing English clubs such as Crystal Palace. It wasn't until the later stages of his career that he returned to Australia to join Melbourne Victory. After retiring, he transitioned into coaching and led the team to win the A-League championship twice. On December 17, 2023, Muscat was appointed as the head coach of Chinese Super League club Shanghai Port. In the 2024 season, he led the team to outstanding performances, helping Shanghai Port achieve a historic first by winning both the Chinese Super League and the Chinese FA Cup double. Albanese also said that one of the key areas for future development between Australia and China lies in deepening people-to-people exchanges, which needs to be achieved through the broad participation of Australians. On July 13th and 14th, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, ABC, published consecutive articles sharply criticizing the United States for exerting pressure over the Taiwan Strait issue, accusing the U.S. of becoming a new troublemaker in the region, forcing Australia to make difficult choices, and bluntly stating that you can't help but be astonished by America's shamelessness. The article says that especially with the news of U.S. pressure coming out just as the Australian Prime Minister is visiting China, hardly anyone believes this is a coincidence. The intention behind this move is to undermine the improvement of China-Australia relations and to steal the spotlight from Albanese's visit to China. In a commentary published on July 14, ABC pointed out that under Trump's leadership, the United States is abandoning foreign aid and multilateralism. Against this backdrop, whether in trade, energy production, or even in soft power and moral leadership, China seems destined to replace the United States in global leadership. In the automotive industry, China is already defeating the US and European car industries with high-quality, well-designed, and lower-priced models, and it is almost certain to achieve the same in all other high-tech products such as robotics. The article states that it is entirely reasonable for Prime Minister Albanese to visit China again before his first meeting with Trump, because China is now more important than Trump. ABC also noted earlier that the Australian government has already stated it will further cooperate with China in the field of green energy. For Australia, climate change is one of the government's top priorities, especially as the country strives to fulfill its emissions reduction commitments. Wan Han, an expert from the think tank Clean Energy Finance, said that in many areas of the energy transition, China is astonishingly ahead of the rest of the world. He believes that 70% of the world's electric vehicles and 80% of its solar panels are produced in China, making China an indispensable partner for Australia in the field of energy transition. According to data from May this year, China's newly installed renewable energy capacity in just 2 days is equivalent to Australia's total for the entire year of 2024. It's worth noting that just before Albanese flew to China for his visit, the Financial Times revealed some news that added to the headaches of Australian officials. The report said that the Pentagon is urging Japan and Australia to clarify what roles they would play if a conflict were to break out in the Taiwan Strait. This move left both Japan and Australia feeling frustrated and shocked, because the United States itself has not made any unconditional guarantees. On the 13th, Australia's Minister for Defence Industry, Conroy, responded to the media by saying that Australia would reject any U.S. request for them to participate in a hypothetical conflict with China, and would not make any commitments in advance. ABC bluntly stated that it couldn't help but be surprised by America's shamelessness. The U.S. president himself is synonymous with unreliability and unpredictability, yet he still demands that Australia make a clear commitment to a war that hasn't even happened. The commentary said this is like a marriage where one partner demands a solemn promise that the other will never leave, while keeping the right to walk away at any time for themselves. The article argues that this sounds like a bad, even toxic, relationship. All along, Trump has been unable to maintain a consistent U.S. position on the current battlefield in Ukraine, let alone make contingency plans for a Taiwan Strait crisis that hasn't even happened yet. According to ABC, the U.S. suddenly suspending military aid to Ukraine and then resuming it perfectly illustrates the current chaos and unpredictability of American foreign and defense policy. What do these confusions mean for the region right now? It's worrying. And right amid all this uncertainty, the Chinese government rolled out the red carpet and warmly welcomed Albanese's visit. According to reports, on the 13th in Shanghai, Albanese stated that Australia and China deal with each other in a calm and consistent manner. He said, "I hope to continue pursuing our national interests, and maintaining good relations with China is precisely in our interest." According to the ABC, in the past, this kind of diplomatic language might have sounded dull and uninteresting, but this time it carries a particularly profound meaning, especially considering the words and actions of the United States, which are anything but calm and consistent. Australian media side, saying that the world now seems upside down, China, once seen as the region's biggest potential geopolitical rival, is now extending goodwill to Australia, almost like a mature trading partner. Meanwhile, Australia's real-life allies are demanding tough commitments from Australia, yet are unwilling to make the same commitments themselves. Isn't that awkward? Some analysts have pointed out that over the past decade, discussions about China in Australia have mainly been dominated by so-called national security perspectives, a view largely stemming from China's growing military presence. However, prior to this visit to China, the message released by Albanese indicated that Australia would shift its focus toward trade ties and people-to-people exchanges. The article states that Australia is adopting a more balanced approach in handling its relationship with China, while also sending a clear signal to the outside world that the current government will pursue a more independent diplomatic path, no longer fearing to offend the United States as it has in recent years. There's a stark contrast across the Pacific, one side cold, the other warm, and the Australian media feels the temperature difference. Strengthening ties with China is a rational choice for the current Australian government, and it can serve as an example for other U.S. allies.